What's your definition of a smart kid?
You can look at two things. So one is whether or not they are achieving academically, and then two is
Transition from that into the technical world without feeling overwhelmed.
so what Scratch does is it gets away from all the complexities that you will hear technical people speaking about. You don't get what you deserve, you get what you negotiate for.
What's happening, everybody? Here is another episode with your favorite Mr. Cater. In this episode, we'll be chatting with Mukondli. I'll shorten it like that. And he's our genius in the software engineering space. And yeah, I don't want to introduce too much about him. So I'll just leave it to him to just give us a bit of intro. Where did he grow up? What is his full name? And what did he like to do when he was still very, very young?
Cool. It was actually frozen for a couple of seconds, so I think I missed part of the question, but I did hear the last part about where I grew up and whatnot. So I'll just try my best to answer. If I miss anything, you can just let me know. So my name is quite a long one. It's Mukondli. It's a Xitsonga name. It means to organize or to encourage. It's actually an odd name, even amongst Batsonga, so you don't get a lot of Mukondli out there. Yeah, but that's my name. I was born at Minga village. It's situated quite close to the Punda Maria Gate Kruger National Park, and it's also close to Zim and Mozambique because of where it is. There's actually a joke around my village. The elderly people like giving this joke that when you complain, they will say, if you have a problem with the South African government, you can walk this direction. Within an hour or two, you will get to Zim. If you don't like Zim, you can walk the other direction. Within an hour or two, you should get to
You should be
Mozambique.
good.
Yeah. So,
So if you're
so I was
tired, you
actually,
could probably just leave the country.
yes.
No,
Yeah,
that's
so
an interesting one.
yeah. There's a rich culture of integrating foreign nationals because of just how close it is to Zim and Mozambique. There was a place I remember, maybe when I was 4 or 5, where we used to play soccer. Just besides the soccer field, there's a village. We would call it in Xitsonga Amazambikweni, which means the place where people from Mozambique stay. But it looks like a village within a village. And people that come from Mozambique would typically stay there. Obviously, some would not have ID books or anything like that. So they would get integrated into the community. So they would look for the smartest kids within that community and find a way to get them into the schooling system.
I'm gonna assume the love for languages came from that, from the diversity that you guys had when you were growing up. To say 1 hour away, you are away from Zimbabwe or Mozambique, and then South Africa. I'm assuming you are also close to Lesotho, probably 2 hours away. I mean, would you say your love for languages came from there? And can you speak some of Mozambique? I don't know if it's called Mozambique or what. What do
Yeah,
they
yeah.
call the language?
Um, no, actually not. I mean, my love for languages, I would say, came at a later stage in my life. The one thing I did remember while growing up, I think the first interaction I had with a language and one that was interesting for me was so I mentioned I was born at Minga, but we later moved to another village called Nyavani. So at Nyavani is where I currently live. There was a family there. There was an old man that used to come. This old man was a vendor, but he would play songs from different cultures. And one of the songs he liked playing, it's called Chitekete, which is a Leonard Dembo song, and Leonard Dembo from the Shona music. Yeah, I think that was one of the first times I had a language, and I was so interested in it because it was a song I kept hearing again and again and again. But I would say that my love for languages came a little bit later.
Yeah, I mean, definitely the people who are listening to us, they're asking themselves, why are we talking about languages? Are we talking about, so are we supposed to be talking about your career journey? We will definitely take a look at some of the greatest apps that Mukondli did in his career, which is Angular and as well as Mahlahle. I really love them. We'll definitely dig into deep. But before we go that far, right, let's take a look at your upbringing from the high school level. Specifically, maybe when you're moving from your grade 9 to grade 10, 11, and 12. I mean, would you say you were one of the smartest kids in the class, or were you fighting? And how were you fighting? I mean, I think it's quite important to understand from that point.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I would say, I mean, I've been a quiet kid. Even now, I'm one of the quiet people in any group, including at work or whenever I'm hanging with a group of friends. So I was certainly like that even in high school. So my high school was a 10-minute walk from my house. So a lot of the people that I went to high school with would be people from the same village as I was. There were other kids from other villages. There were some times where there were conflicts, but nothing too major to a point where a school would need to be involved or parents would need to be involved. It was things that could be solved amongst the groups. I was, I like putting it this way, and I might sound being too modest, but I was thought of as one of the smart kids. But of course, there were other people that I felt, um, you know, I think understood the coursework way better than I did. But yeah, I was certainly one of the kids that the teachers respected and would often make an example, using my name, especially in my grade 11 and grade 12,
Mhm.
more so than. But I think the lower grades kind of blended in nicely into the crowds. Few people knew my name, but the teachers were certainly affirming, and also would mention that, me, uh, well, they would think of me as one of the kids that, they wanted to pay extra attention to, and thought that I would certainly do better after I leave high school. So I went for grade 6 to grade 10. It was in the high school, Dlamani High School, which is 10 minutes walk from my house. And then grade 11 to grade 12, I went to a school called Sasa Combined School. It's in a village called Hadumasi, which is on the way, at least from my side, on the way to Triangle. So I finished my grade 11 and grade 12 there. That was quite interesting. Um, I was um, I was quite religious, particularly grade 11 and grade 12. So I was one of the people you would have seen taking leadership in matters that concerned church activities at the school. In fact, if you were to ask anyone from Sasa Combined School who knew me, that's the one thing that they would recall. I was also thought of as one of the smart kids there as well, amongst other
The other
students. But
ones.
I never really got into fights or anything.
Not really. Not never in trouble. So it for me it was a funny one because I would be not so bad kid, but not so good kid on the other side. So
Okay.
we used to be trouble from time to time in class with the group of my friends. But it's not about me now,
Yeah.
right? So, but what's your definition of a smart kid, and what would you say was the biggest character that made you sail high school pretty well? And I think you also spoke about grade 11 and grade 12, you doing well and things changing up for the better. What changed then? I mean, what did you do different that you were not doing before then? Sorry, there's like three questions in one, but just try to sum it up there, please.
Yeah. Um, yeah, it's hard to define what a smart kid is, but I think it's you can look at two things. I think so. One is whether or not they are achieving academically, and then two is whether or not they are reliable. I know being reliable, you wouldn't necessarily count it as smart, but as far as gaining the trust of other people around you to a point where they would think you're smart, you kind of need um, to adopt responsibility so that people see you as a person who's reliable. I would say what changed when I went to Sasa Combined School, it's one, the nature of being in boarding school, I think played a major role there as well, because all of the people that I interacted with anyway, were people that our relationship was an academic one because we are in a hostel at boarding school. So I think that played a major role, but also the church aspect of it, I would say, because I adopted a lot of responsibilities there, and there were a lot of people who saw me as somebody who is leading them in that respect. I felt that it put
You need
a
to
lot of
conserve.
pressure on me to perform,
Yeah.
yeah, academically as well. So yeah, I would say that's what played a role. But also, I mean, my father was a math and science teacher. If you go to the village where I was born, Minga village, and you
Mhm.
mentioned Dumela, it's one of the, I mean, I'm 100% sure you will hear someone mention math and science because it's what he was known for. My mother was a primary school teacher. She retired in 2020, um, or in 2022 rather. Back home, also there was that push for us to excel academically.
Yeah.
There's hardly anyone at home who struggles academically.
Okay. I
Yeah,
think I really like the your definition of a smart kid. I mean, yes, there is this definition that people always see of a kid that is doing 80s, 90s, 70s at school. But I like you saying it's just somebody who's reliable, which means somebody who's competent. If you are tasked to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you can do it, then you are smart
yeah,
to begin with. Yeah, because I think even in the workplace, we will definitely talk about those things. In the workplace, I think that's the very same idea. It's the person who's doing so well, it's the person who can do their job and the person who can do their job right and people can rely
yeah,
to. But as you grow up, right,
yeah.
before we go to your university, what were some of your maybe aspirations or favorite subjects and the people you really looked up to that you wanted to be? And maybe what was the benefit of that in your life?
I think the people that I looked up to, that's a good one, actually. I think I looked up to a lot of people,
Mhm,
not like single individuals.
mhm,
So there was um there was a teacher, I mean, in grade 11 and grade 12, the person I think I really, really looked up to in terms of academic excellence was the principal at our school. His name was Mr. Taban. He is, I think he was twice the best maths teacher in the whole country. Um, yeah, so it's somebody who really, really excelled in that subject. And I mean, I still remember to this day when he
mhm,
said, if you want to be good at this, you need you don't need to struggle with so many things in any particular day. What you do is pick three problems to solve each day. They can be simplest problems as long as it's maths problems and do it every single day. And I think that would be somebody that I looked up to. As I mentioned, I was quite religious then, so there would have been a few people from the religious side
okay.
that I looked up to as well. Academically, my sister was doing quite well at university when I was
Mhm,
still in high school. So she was also a big inspiration. I'm actually trying to remember this. second part of your question, and I'm realizing
No,
it's
it's okay.
escaped
We
me.
can we can chop it. The thing is, when you're saying
Yeah.
right now that your sister was also in the high school, it brings a lot of pressure because when you get into that grade that the bigger person was at, they'll be like, "Well, you're unlike who," because this person used to get this much. So I'm guessing you got a lot of pressure from that end. I'm guessing
No,
you
I
get a lot
actually
of
meant that.
pressure from that end. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, I just wanna add there. I think I might have miscommunicated a bit. So I meant that my sister was doing well, but doing well at university when I was in high school. So we
Oh,
didn't go to
okay,
the
I see.
same high school.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay, okay. Yeah, because I do know it's like, hey, don't you want to be like, it's like a reference point, and you'll be like, guys, I have my own
Yeah,
brains, you know.
yeah,
But I mean, I really liked that most of your most of your high school was more of like motivation, work hard, practice. Like, I mean, be there and just
yeah.
focus on your school and stuff. But then, what did you think you wanted to be when you were in high school, and what did you became when you went to university? So let's talk a little bit about your university. I mean, what did you want to be a doctor? Did you want to be a
Yeah.
teacher? Did you want to be a nurse? I mean, what did you want to be when you were in high school, and what changed when you went to university?
Yeah, I think, I mean, I wanted to be doing something in the sciences
Okay.
because of my father. So I wasn't very clear what field of science, at least not early on, I would be interested in, but I knew that it would have to be some engineering or science related career. I also, while growing up, I mean, I liked fiddling with like radios, TVs, and that kind of thing. At least in my mom's mind, that maybe this might be a direction that I might go. But when I was in high school at Sasa, there was a guy named Mashudu. I'm forgetting his last name. He's from Musina, this guy. And we were talking about, what to do when we go to university. And one of the courses he mentioned was multimedia. And he talked about, how you can learn to build websites. You can learn how to build or to create videos and so forth. And that sounded quite interesting for me. Then, especially because I think the year prior, my
Mhm.
brother had come back home with a Nokia phone, one of those. It looked like a smartphone then. I know we have a different definition of smartphone right now,
Yeah.
but yeah, it had Opera Mini, so I could go and search for websites, and I opened a few websites. Then I don't even remember what the websites were. But when I had later then had this conversation with Mashudu, I kind of was very interested to understand
And
what
doing what?
goes into building these types of pages and whatnot. And so that's what I actually ended up doing in university. But I applied
So
for mining engineering, and this was the second choice.
we'll go back to that mining engineering. Then you went for the second choice, but then I want to just understand from other than multimedia that Mashudu came with, right? What other courses did you know were there other than just the multimedia and the normal engineering? I mean, if I ask you what a medical physicist does right now, would you be able to explain to me? I mean, I'm just trying to explore
Yes,
how much
I
you
would.
knew.
Yeah, yeah, and I knew it because my sister is a medical physicist.
Ah,
So I knew
lucky
there's something
you,
to
lucky you.
physics. Yes.
Okay,
So
okay,
she
okay.
was studying that and it made me sense. So yeah, so I knew what that is. And we had actually taken a trip from like a high school trip to Joburg, and we had a chance to go to explore some of the universities.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think I was aware of what's out there. I was afraid that I was not gonna qualify for some of it. So my English wasn't, and I don't think it's still that good now. So that that impacted how well I could do in things like physical sciences, because it involved a lot of understanding of complex text and whatnot. It wasn't numbers like you'd find in maths. So I knew that I would struggle quite a bit with that. But I think looking back, I think that did shape um, my choices in a way, because I wanted something that I knew I would qualify for.
Mhm.
Yeah, because I wasn't so sure that physics is gonna go well because of chemistry in particular, which was quite heavily in a text and sort of like having to understand long concepts, and that relied on your understanding of the language a bit more than maths or anything else.
Yeah, that's where
Yeah.
Angular comes in. I guess so. So think about it. But let's go back to your to the university, right? You said you had software engineering as like your media and stuff as your second option, and then I mean now you've started, right? Let's say you are doing your first year. How did you find it, and maybe what were some of the biggest challenges that you came across, either in your first year, second year, and third year, and how did you quite go about them? Because I mean, I know there is the academic side of things, right? But then in general, like it's a
Yeah.
whole change of life. Like, can you please just package that as well as the academic life
Yeah.
in your view, please?
Yeah, I think, I mean, as I mentioned in high school, I was a little bit known because of my work on the religious front. So getting to university, coming in, nobody really knows who I am. Um, I'm very quiet, so it takes time for me to make friends. My English wasn't, and I don't think it's still that good now. So that also impacted how well I could communicate with other people around me. First year, if I'm being honest, was quite a nightmare. I don't think I've felt like I'm struggling as hard as I did in my first year, on both the academic front and also on the social side as well. Academically, I I didn't grow up using a computer. In fact, um, I can maybe count on one hand the number of times I'd used a computer before enrolling on this course. And by used, I'm using that word quite graciously because I didn't know much. I didn't know how to switch it on, how to restart, any of the terminology that goes along with using a computer. I just was not aware of. And obviously, being a course in IT, or at least within the IT sector, there is an assumption that there is some basic level understanding of like how to operate a PC. I felt the lecturers were moving quite quickly when we were supposed to be doing programming assignments, which I felt I understood the logic of it, but to then use a computer to type that in was quite a challenge. I actually failed. There was a module called, I think, CIL, Computer Literacy something. I'm forgetting the full name for it. I
Mhm.
failed all the tests during the semester, and then I got 39%. Not 39, it was 29%, and they gave me 1%. Back then, if you are at 39, I think they could push you to, I might not be remembering this correctly. I
Yes,
think
sir.
they could push you to 40. Or
Yes.
maybe either I got 39 and they pushed me to 40. I
Mhm.
can't remember exactly. So I qualified for the exam. But by the time I qualified for the exam, obviously this is towards the end of the semester, I was a little bit confident on my computer skills. So the exam is the only thing I passed on that module. Everything else I failed, but not too badly, such that I didn't qualify.
You didn't go in.
But
So, sorry. When you're talking about this, I remember one time there was this other module I was doing very bad. I think it was like my second year. It was, they call it, I think it's
yeah,
discrete maths. some people can testify on such module.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I got a sub, and I was like, no, I'm not gonna write. I won't make it here. So I just kind of chop it out. So I'm surprised you got it. You got it, and then you went for the exam. So yeah, that's a that's a bold move.
yeah,
Sorry, you can go ahead.
yeah. And I mean, other things I was struggling with. I failed English at
Mhm.
there was an English module called EOT. I won't forget the code. I failed that module, and not failing because one, I didn't submit assignments, or I tried and I just could not make it. So I realized then that I needed to improve my understanding of the English language quite quickly. Also, that university as a whole was a whole different beast compared to high school. Socially, I did make a few friends. Luckily, the I think I'm not sure if I'm selling the IT sector too much here, but because of the way that things were organized, then you like you had to interact with people to get stuff done, assignments and things like that. So I was able to, for because of that, build some relationships that still exist out to this day.
Even
So
today.
I made a few. I think second year was quite easy. It was, I mean, I think comparing it to the previous year, it
It
was
gets
quite
easier as you
easy.
go forward,
I
I
enjoyed
guess.
it.
Mhm.
Yes. And then what I did is, because I had failed some modules in the first year, I second year was there were some few modules from second year, but a lot of it was like cleaning up for first year. And so I did that. And then going forward, what I would do is I would take a lot of elective modules that I didn't have to take. So I think I have maybe six or five uh, that I took that I didn't need to graduate. So I would pick things that I had interest in. So another one was had to do with pop art, but also like pop culture in music videos and that kind of thing, and they would go deep into those concepts. And then finally, I did the same thing. I took three extra or four extra modules as well. There, I actually failed the last exam, but I didn't need the module. The reason I
Rightfully
failed
so.
it because I was too tired to study. I was like, okay, I don't really need this in any case. I just
I
went
mean,
to write. I think I got
100%.
44, but yeah.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
It is what it is. But I mean, I think your story comes from this kid who has been in the bubble, and then they had to kind of bubble up, get out of the bubble over time, and all those kind of things. And I mean, you kept on just pulling in
Yeah.
a couple of challenges your side, right? So how would you say
Yeah.
university and this socializing with people at university shaped your you personally and professionally during this space? Because I mean, many people don't really like to think of university as a professional space. I like to think of it as professional space because I feel like if you can't handle yourself well at university, even when you go to workplace, you probably won't even be able to, because they try to teach us what's going to happen in the workplace. So how did you grow personally and professionally during the time of your university? And I mean, until obviously you got to get out of your bubble and you be like, well, cool, I'm a quiet kid. It doesn't mean that I have to be loud, but I need to be able to socialize and engage and stuff like that. I mean, what could you tell to somebody who is saying, "Ah, no, I'm an introvert. I don't like talking much." What would you tell them, and how would you suggest they go about it?
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it's a tough thing, being an introvert. I think people think there's a switch you can just press, and all of a sudden you're bubbly and friendly with everyone. But it's quite an effort that you would need to take to do that. And other times it also feels like a burden when other people are around, because you just want your space and you enjoy your company that much. But I think, I mean, for me, I benefited from this setup of the course that required that we interact with other people. I didn't have the church or religious structures anymore, so I wasn't benefiting from relationship that were growing out of that. All
Yes.
of the relationship that I was building had to do with the course itself. The other thing I would say is in my second year, I was growing quite confident in my programming skills. So confident
Mhm.
that there would be a lot of students who would be seeking help from me. So at any given weekend, there would be a few students at my flat looking for help with like assignments. So I think that also opened a space to build a few more friendships, relationships, friendships that still exist to this day. But I think I'm still an introvert at large. Um, I don't remember attending a single party. Yeah, I no, I didn't
At
attend a single
university, how did
party.
you live?
If
I
I did,
mean, how did you live when you fail an exam? How did you just go home and start laughing and dancing on your own? I mean, how did you handle the pressure at university? Because I know a few people would tell you, well, they go out and socialize, party, and even though it's
yeah,
not a big thing, but
yeah.
rather go and socialize. I mean, how did you cope under such? I mean, how did you do it without partying? You don't really necessarily need to party, but there could be like some sort of an organization, a sport, a club, or a group of people who do things
Yeah,
that relates to you that you could use to freshen up. I mean, were you in any part of those? And I mean, how did you live without at least a drop of alcohol?
yeah. It's actually a miracle how I survived university. Now thinking of it. No, I think so first year I was staying in Silverton at a
Mhm.
commune there with a few other students who were not from the IT sector, but economics, like the humanities and other spaces. We did have some activities there, so we would watch TV together. I would rent out movies on Fridays. Like there were almost religious things that we did as housemates, but I don't remember if there was a party. But yeah, there were some activities like that I think helped with first year. Second year, I had moved to a different place, so I didn't have that structure anymore. Yeah, and it's actually a miracle how I survived that. Yeah, I think most of my time was actually spent uh, doing schoolwork or like I did have I was working on a social networking site, so that took a chunk of my time in I think second year going on third year. That did take a lot of my time. So after
Mhm.
school, that's what I would be working on the weekends as well. I would spend a lot of time working on
Mhm.
that. I did launch it for a brief period and then just wasn't working out, so shut it down.
Okay. So I mean, now that we were talking about some apps, right? So what were some of the other things maybe that you had to do academically, or we can even include the one that we just spoke about right now that you're so proud of, and why? I mean, what were you trying to solve? What did you do? What sprouted the curiosity around it?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I love the way that course was structured. Honestly, I would
Okay.
recommend it for anyone trying to be an entrepreneur, especially somebody who's trying to be a tech founder. Um, it had, in my view, all of the elements that you would need. So the first project we did was to find a brand. This could be a music band, could be a company, any sort of brand, and build a website for it. I was The website I built was about Thomas Chauke, who's a Xitsonga musician. just to show his albums, and I used all the little techniques of HTML I was learning then. I was super proud of that project. I mean, I still remember how it looks, yeah, rather like how it looked even to this day. I was really proud of
Should
it.
send me a picture. I'll tag
The other
it.
projects we would,
Sorry, you should send
I
me a
don't think I
picture. I'll
have
tag it
it.
on my Twitter.
Yeah, no, I don't think I have that. Oh no, I was just saying I still remember how the picture looked,
Oh,
but I
okay.
don't think I have that project. Yeah, somewhere. I actually lost my drive when I
Ah,
started working, so I lost a lot of my cool school projects. I mean, the other thing we did was so the course multimedia. Maybe just before I list some of the projects, it's
mhm,
at least at the University of Pretoria, it's a combination of three things. It's multimedia itself, which has to do with like multimedia content, like videos, cartoons, those kind of things, and then visual design, which is the design side of it, and then computer science. So it's a combination of these three things. So the project would revolve around these three aspects of multimedia. So some of it were on the computer science side. We had to build like a chess game. I believe in second year. Final year we built hey, my former team members will would beat me for forgetting the name of the project, but it was essentially to use the software Scratch,
I've
is it
heard about
Scratch or
it.
Sketch? The one
I think
where
it's Scratch, the one that they
programming,
start
yeah.
at and all those kind of things, like to familiarize somebody with
Yes, yes,
programming and coding. Yes.
yes, yes. So what we were doing was making that physical. So physical in a sense, instead of like using pieces on a computer, we
Hmm.
created physical pieces that we marked with like barcodes that you
Hmm.
would place on top of this glass thing to create your program. And it would target people that don't know how to use a computer but just wanted to get
Okay.
started with understanding what programming is about and whatnot. So we actually had a few people that were working doing gardening at the university, and few people that were providing cleaning services there. They were the
Mhm.
market. So they would come into the lab where we had the box, and they would actually interact with that glass and the marked PCs, and they would create programs. Actually, I we do still have a video of this, and I remember how I think one of the ladies, like how she reacted when after placing a piece and it shows up there, and she kind of understand what it does because she kind of explained that okay, you're supposed to create this thing that's supposed to take 5 steps. Step number one, it
Mhm.
needs to do this. Step number two, it
Mhm.
needs to do this, and then and so forth, and then would explain the pieces on the side as well, that this piece is for doing this piece is for
Mhm.
doing that, and she would pack it up nicely to create that program. And she pressed play. I still remember just the wow
The feeling there, it's like,
she,
whoa, what's
she
happening here? So, so,
yeah.
so Tommy here,
So that
right?
was
Sorry, no, you can go ahead.
yeah, no, I was just gonna wrap up. So that's one of the other projects that we worked on, and then other stuff were like cartoons. So
Mhm.
we would create like animations, and a game. So there is a game, I still have it, that we had to submit for our final year project. It was
Mhm.
a third person shooter game essentially, in 3D. So it looks like a student game, but I think the concept was solid. I'm quite
Mhm.
proud of what we did there as well.
Okay. Um, I have been having a couple of questions as you were talking, right? So I haven't really used Scratch. I've heard people talking about it and what it's there for, and what could be some of the biggest benefits for anyone who wants to learn programming or understand the idea of computing and all those kind of things.
Yeah.
Could you maybe just with a simple explanation, 30 seconds, explain to somebody who's a non-techie who would like to be a techie on how Scratch could really help them, transition from that into the technical world without feeling overwhelmed. Or we can use an example of what you already said. I know you have already said it, but I just want us to package it in a one-liner.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not good at packaging with one-liners, but let's see how this would go. Yeah, so I mean, as I touched on a little bit earlier, Scratch is a software application that you can use on a computer. It's built specifically to assist people who are not technical with
Mhm,
tapping into the world of programming. I know programming is often paired with great computer skills, but
mhm,
these are actually two separate skills. To program, you need to apply logic, to apply steps to achieve a certain task. If you're somebody who is quite good with numbers, maths, with breaking an equation to a point where you get to an answer, programs normally flow in the same way. It's breaking down steps of how to achieve something. So what Scratch does is it gets away from all the complexities that you will hear technical people speaking about, present you with a very nice interface with blocks that you can place on the screen. These blocks represent the steps that you want the program to do, and it also has a nice visual on the side. So after you're done writing your program, quote unquote, you press play, and then you can see either a cat or a cow or some animal performing exactly the actions that you said it should perform. Yeah, so it's built just for everyday people to tap into the programming side.
Okay, so I
Yeah.
guess if I don't put those blocks properly, then I could see maybe a lion dancing on his head instead of in its legs. So
Yes.
yeah, I guess that's the case. Thank you very much. I think you'd really packaged it pretty well. And I think for some people who are listening to us here, they'll definitely go give it a try. I'll try to find a few links and then just drop them as well on the section below. So
Yeah.
I mean, you explained to me. I'm quite fascinated about this whole varsity thing because I think that's where many people don't really get, enough information on, right? You spoke about a course that combines all these creatives and programming and all those kind of things together. So I guess for me, it was going to be very useful if I started there instead of starting to learn to be a YouTuber at a very late stage and all those kind of things. Then maybe I could have maybe jump onto this earlier. So yeah, I think that was it about your university. I mean, we can always jump onto some other topics there, right? But I want to also help our people who are starting at the workplace, and then we'll talk a little bit about some workplace stuff, and then we will talk a lot about Angular and Mahlahle, and you kind of educate me and other people who are quite keen to hear about this. How did it happen? How did you find your first job? Did you get maybe a cousin that was like, "Yo, bro, I got you a job. Come today." Or how did it happen to you? How easy was it? How difficult was it? And what was the one thing that you had to change about yourself to adapt to that new environment?
Yeah. I actually want to give a shout out to my actual first job, which was when I was still at high school. There was a guy that used to install, uh, I don't know what the term is, but it's a like you have a house, you want to install the like all of the electrical setup. I don't know
Mhm.
what the term for that is. So he was doing it in my
Electrician.
village, and he happened. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I'm not. Yeah, I think he's an electrician, but I
An
was referring to
electrician
what you do.
or with other
Oh,
stuff.
man. I was referring to what you do with that village. But yes, so he was doing it at my village, and he was my
Yes.
brother's friend. So that was the first time I had a job. He still owes me money from that, but that's a story for another day.
Give me his call, I'll call him. Sorry to disturb. You can go ahead. You can go ahead, please.
So with the first job after university, I actually got it before I got my marks for the last, I think, two or three modules. So they when we do like finally a project, there is presentation day where we all dress up. We present our project and we present this project to other students in the campus, but also companies from outside actually come into the school to look at our project. So somebody took our emails as they were going around looking at the different projects setting. So they reached out um, and I mentioned I'm still busy with exams. I said it's fine. When you're done with exams, just let me know. We can do the interview. So I did the interview in December. So right before I knew that, all of the results are okay. As I mentioned, the last one I failed, but I didn't need it. The interview was set. So I then went to the interview in December. So I stayed in Joburg instead of going home in December for that reason. So the interview was fairly okay. I think for me it was fairly okay, and I was apparently the only person who passed the interview. They got close to 10 people. It was like a programming thing that you had to do, and I was at that point somebody who was coding on a daily basis. So
Mm-hmm.
I think I cruised through that quite nicely. They asked how much you want to get paid, and for the first time, hearing that question, I didn't
Did you
know
even know how much you
what the
wanted to get
market.
paid then, or it was like I need a
No,
market related salary? It's like, hey guys, just give me mine.
no, I gave them a low number. I think it was like 15K or something,
Okay.
like some
When was
low
this?
number like that. And then I let in 2013.
20. Yeah. It wasn't a low number in 2013, wasn't it
Yeah.
like a million rand today?
No, no, it was. It was. And the reason I say this is because somebody else from the same class who got a job and they had like
Hmm.
maybe it was at 21 somewhere there. Yeah. So I thought, hey,
Okay.
if I knew, because they didn't negotiate when I said 50.
Of course. They're
It's like,
saving.
okay.
They're saving.
But
So,
yeah,
but
I started then in Jan.
can,
Yeah,
can so sorry to jump in here. Can we teach some other people before we get into the whole working experience, right? We will jump into that because it's very important for
yeah,
people to understand that. But then for people who today are looking for their job and it's their first job, right? What advice would you give them
yeah,
to negotiate for their salary without having to sound desperate, and as well
yeah.
without them having to push away the employer? Because of course, if it's your first job, you don't want to push away the employer. You just want money. You got what I'm saying? How would you suggest they
Yes,
go
yes.
about getting the best out of their first offer? Because the company doesn't mind lowering down if you said a lower number, for as long as it's still within their ranges. But
Yeah.
what advice would you give somebody so that they don't shoot themselves on the foot when it comes to their first offer, but without having to push away
Yeah,
the
yeah.
company?
I mean, it's a tough one. I mean, there's this guy, VT. You should definitely have a session with him. So it's a very brilliant guy in the tech space. He always says that you don't get what you deserve, you get what you negotiate for. And that statement is quite unsettling when you hear it the first time, but
Which is true.
unfortunately, the world is not set up to yeah, hand you over what you deserve. So I would say do your research on the market-related salary for your particular role. The other thing is you don't need to respond in the moment. If you can push for responding via email or some other communication where you can get assistance with the response so that it's not five executives who are ganging up on you in a meeting.
Yep.
But obviously, that's not always possible. But if you can avoid that, I think do go the route of asking to reply via email or to negotiate via email, or at least the initial figure. And if you do
Mhm.
have that permission, you can then reach out to people that you know who can help you with even the way that you do the negotiation also matters as well.
Yep.
There's a way to ask for money, You don't just say, I want,
I want
30,000.
this or else. So I'm guessing then, I mean, this might sound very obvious to someone like you and I, right? But then I'm guessing the answer you need to just give them is, I'm looking for a market related salary. And if they don't know what the market related salary, then it gives you a chance to at least stall for that 2 to 3 days for you to also go and research and find maybe guidance from other guys who have been through that. So yeah, the answer
Yeah.
is I'm looking for market related salary. Okay.
Yes.
Um, I think I really like the statement of you saying you don't really get paid um, um, what you are worth. You actually get paid of what you probably go and negotiate or say you want. It's like you actually the person that sets the value other than the employer setting the value for you. If you're not
Yeah.
valuing
Yeah.
yourself, then we'll just jump onto
Yeah.
there because it's actually good for the company to not pay so much money, and you should be good.
Yeah.
So I think maybe let's go back to you starting your first day at work. I remember when I started first day at work, they were laughing at us for coming wearing in formal. They said there's no developer that wears formal, and don't tell me you went with formal. Don't tell me you went with formal,
No,
and
I was wearing.
I knew it. I knew it. Probably with a bow tie, and then he was like, "Can you please take us through it? How did it go? And
Yeah.
yeah, how did it go? How did your first week? How did your second week, and maybe potentially your first month go? Because I believe those are the most difficult in general. So yeah, how did it go?
Yeah. Yeah, man, it was quite a shock to the system, just how the world works outside there. So I was working for a consulting company, but it was consulting at Vodacom. So I mean, Vodacom is a very big place with so many people that you interact with. Also, there's just so much to know for you to be able to function properly there. So they throw a lot of stuff at you. I would say that first 3 months was quite a stiff learning curve for me. Also, at the time I joined, there was a huge migration towards, well, not really a migration, like a rewrite of a key component
Mhm.
within the system. So I was joining not to, write a few if statements here and there. This was to look at as complex a code as I'd ever seen in my
Mhm.
entire life. So it certainly did stretch me quite a bit. I was also still staying in Pretoria, I think the first month, and then I moved to Tembisa. I was not used to like traveling and having to wake up early in the morning and yeah, and all of that. Um, and I didn't have a car up until I didn't have a license even. So for some of the deployments, they would let me stay home because this guy doesn't have a car.
Mhm.
And then when I finally did have a car, I could then stay up for deployments as well, which would end in the early AMs. So it was a sort of nice bonding experience with the other colleagues with the
Mhm.
deployments. But no, I really enjoyed the first year of working. For me, it was tough at the beginning, but later on, it was something that I really enjoyed, I'd say.
Okay. So just tell me here, right? Which skill did you find very most valuable in your first job? What skill kind of really helped you adapt to this new environment? Because this is one thing I know, right? Whenever you go to these workplaces, number one, the likelihoods you find that they don't even have work that is at your level, but somewhere somehow you need to be able to
Yeah.
network around, talk to people, and all those kind of things. At least that was my experience. But for you personally, what was that one skill that you found most valuable into your work, and that helped you integrate pretty well into the workplace within those first 3 months?
Yeah, I would say the just communication, but to be more precise, communication via email. I don't think that's a skill that was a little bit, or I had, but it was not that strong during my days at the university. When I got to the workplace, I understood that things get heated, and there's a lot of sort of like subtweeting that happens
Mhm.
in emails, and that's apparently how you can blame other people for not doing as they
Yep.
promised without
Mhm.
looking like you're starting a war with them. So yeah, I think I learned yeah, like I learned that quite quickly. I mean, to this day, I I always joke that emails are my best form of communication. I'm really good at writing an email. And it's something that I think of as an art. Like when there's an email I want to respond to, it's a
Mhm.
challenge for me that,
You have to
how do
think,
I
take
go
your
about
time.
this? What's the approach? Yeah, I take my time and I
Mhm.
put a lot of thought into it. I'm somebody who, if you look at my Gmail, at the end of the day, there's zero emails. At the end of each day, I don't have like I know 3,000, 40,000 emails as people have.
I don't
It's
understand people who do
okay.
those. I don't understand people who do those at all. But yeah, I mean, they should be fighting with me on the comments. But yeah, I don't understand them honestly. Um, so I really like. I think you mentioned before we jump into Mahlahle and Angular, right? But you really mentioned a very important
Yeah.
thing in the workplace, right? I mean, today obviously we don't really use emails as our primary medium of communication. It's mostly like your Teams or Google Meet or just
Yeah.
WhatsApp and whatever. Like the communication, it's quite close to us, right? I
Yeah.
still think there is so much importance still of having emails as a way to communicate, right? For me, my view
Yeah.
is, if let's say you're talking to like the product team or the business team or another type of a team, and you need to kind of shed work between, and there needs to be people who are responsible for certain things and whatever, email becomes a very good medium of documenting what needs to be done. When did it happen? Who didn't do what?
Yeah.
And what were they supposed to do? I mean, do you have anything maybe to add on that point? I know people would always tell me, you
Yeah, I think, I
models,
mean,
you emails and all those kind of things. Sorry, you can go for it. I think this is an interesting one.
no, I was just gonna second what you just said now. I think it's a nice way to document what actually happened with timestamps, and also like removes that element of like he said, she said, because it's clearly laid out in an email. It's searchable, so you can go back in time and actually revisit that. It's also a very powerful thing when somebody leaves the team.
Mhm.
So there's documentation which you didn't have to sit down and in or write as documentation, but in your pursuit to communicate ideas or to discuss issues, you are
Yeah.
actually documenting code. So, I mean, one of the things I would always do when I leave a company for another company is write
Mhm.
long email, not the one for goodbyes, but just about all of the stuff that I've worked on, where you can
Mhm.
find stuff,
Mhm.
everything that I think I know about a project. I would lay it down nicely in an email. Hopefully, people that are still working on that can reach out or can use that as their source of truth for whatever they're working on. So yeah, no, I mean, I 100% agree with your sentiments though.
Yeah. I mean, I think one other thing you just brought it up here, right? I think many people get it wrong when they get to the workplace. They think you stop learning. I actually think that's where you get to start really learning for real, and you start really
Yeah.
learning and applying, right? So I know somewhere, somehow, at some point when you're working, we don't have to say names. I don't believe in saying names, but rather, I'm looking for a story here, right? At some
Yeah.
point in when you're working, you came across people who hold informations against them, right? How do you,
Yes.
what would you suggest to somebody who's coming across such a situation on how to best deal with such people? Because I mean, you explained to me that you would write an email detailing everything. You are taking your whole brains and then putting it into an email, and then you be like, have it, right? But then there's these people that you still have within the team or within the company or within an organization, whatever, that wants to hold information as if, well, this is like an AI information. I'm not going to open source it, but we are told to work as a team. What would you suggest to somebody who's
Yeah.
experiencing that, or who has a colleague or somebody they work with that does something like that?
It's a tough one, and I think it's even tougher to solve at an individual level. I
Yeah.
think at an individual level, the best you can do is not to communicate it directly or to target it directly at one particular individual, but
Mhm.
at the team as a whole, to say that we need to do more sharing of information. So, I mean, uh, what comes up from such conversations would be like knowledge sharing sessions that people have and those kind of things. But I think if you do target it at an individual, you run the risk of creating an enemy out of somebody you need
You're
information
right.
from. So if you target it at a team, I think hopefully they will participate. And if they don't participate, somebody else maybe who might know not as much as they do, but at least a little can participate and you can gain from that.
Okay. Yeah, let's now fast forward everything to just tell me a little bit about your current role and your responsibilities. And then immediately that we're going to jump into
Yeah.
Mahlahle and Angula. I think, what do you do?
Okay.
And what do
And
you
actually,
find most interesting about your job? And what do you find most boring? I hope your boss is not going to hear this. What do you find most boring about your job? And yeah, just tell us about that, please.
okay. Now I'm actually not clear if I'm allowed to mention where I work, but it's shall we
I would
say a
suggest not. You
fancy
don't have
car
to mention where
company.
you work. I'm just saying current role, the responsibility. What do you do? By any means, I'm trying to remove any entity from the conversation and just make it purely out of education.
Yeah,
So yeah, please.
yeah. No, 100%. Yeah, so I mean, I'm still in the software dev space. Work as say a senior dev. We are building and maintaining a system which is used for deliveries for parts around like all around the world. So this is by plane, by ship, by trains, trucks, all sorts of communication that needs to be facilitated to get parts moving, and also um, how those parts are actually then allocated within a plant to be used for all the different things that they're used for. So practically speaking, what I'm doing is writing code on a daily basis for new services that support this kind of activities, but also maintaining existing code. The code is for both like front end related work. So I would sometimes have to build screens where people can punch in all sorts of information into, and also backend as well, which is more on computations and calculations and things like that. So yeah, I would
Mhm.
have that responsibility as well. The team is quite it's fairly new,
Mhm.
so that means there is not many people you can rely on who've been around long enough to just know everything. So a lot of the stuff that you stumble upon, if you don't know what it is, you yourself would need to dig
Just to
deeper
figure out.
to actually understand what it is.
You're basically your own boss.
basically forget and then try and document it so that the process is a little bit easier for the next person. And I am enjoying the role. I think the salary is around where I want it to be. The role itself, it's remote, so I'm based in Cape Town. And then we have people from all around the world who are members of the team as well. So I get time to actually drive my daughter to school, drive her from school as well. And that little space that one enjoys with working from home. But I think there are downsides to it. At least I'm experiencing. I mean, there are moments where it kind of feels a bit lonely. You feel a little bit isolated from the world at large, even because I'm literally here in the room or in the study for the whole day, alone. If nobody calls on the other end of the line, I'm not talking. I'm listening to music or watching, I don't know,
That
what
time
I'll
the
be
code is
watching.
not
But
even running.
um, yes,
Sorry, I
you
just
just
wanted to take
need,
you out of the thought there.
somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then I think it's a role I'm enjoying.
Mhm.
I've been in this role for like this is my second year, so yeah, I think it's going okay.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for sharing that, right? But now let's talk about your other baby, the Mahlahle app and the Angula app, right? Can you please,
Yeah.
again, in a brief, explain to us what were you trying to do there? What are you trying to do? What problem are you solving? What inspired that? And just what's happening? Just tell us a little bit there, please.
So the app name that I'm working on, as you mentioned, is Angula. I know the developers pronounce it Angular, which gets on my nerves, but that's okay.
I'm not that developer. I'm not a
So,
developer. I'm not.
but Angular is actually a stronger word for to have your say or to respond. It's a word that's typically used for when there's heated conversations or important conversations, and to solicit a response from someone, we'd say Angola, so that they give their response. So in Xitsonga, a press release, say by a company or a government department, when they respond to something, it's called Nwangulo, which is derived from Angola as well. So yeah, the idea behind it is just to empower people to have their say, to be able to participate in important conversations in an African language of their choice. In simple terms, what we're doing is providing people with a course that they can take through an app. The course will take you through basics of a language all the way to some other complex topics. The idea is you only need to spend about 5 minutes a day. You are presented with flashcards that provide you with bite-sized information about particular topics. So if you're on greetings in Xitsonga, it will cover Abusheni, it will explain where that comes from. There are also audio prompts, so you get to hear what the pronunciations are like, and there's evaluation cards where we actually test your knowledge. And so you do that 5 minutes a day each day. You should wrap up the course within 3 months. And after you've wrapped up the course, we expect you to be able to follow conversations in Xitsonga, so you'll be able to listen. You also be able to speak the language a little bit because it's a beginner course, and you'll be able to also read and write the language at the most basic level. So that's what Angola is about. We have 10 languages, which is the nine African languages that are official here in South Africa, and then the 10th language is Khoi, which of course is one of the oldest languages in South Africa, but it's not an official language. And we have the Mahlahle app, which is the new kid on the block. It's actually named after my daughter. My daughter's name means planet Venus or the morning star. It's also a Xitsonga word. The concept is similar, except that we focus on vocabulary for kids between the ages of 2 and 8. It also covers from basics, animals, body parts, and things like that. We've been running for the Angular app maybe 4 years or so. The community is growing quite nicely, if I can put it like that. And we've actually won an award for the Angular app for best educational solution in 2013. 2023, I'm sorry, which is
Yeah, I'm
last year.
surprised you have been there for 4 years,
So yeah,
but it's 2013.
I could actually hear myself saying 2030. It's like, no, that's not what I'm trying to say. But yeah, I mean, it's been an amazing piece of work for myself. I have been working on language projects since I was at university, so maybe 2013 isn't such a stretch, because in 2012 it's when I founded the first language project I worked on, which was called Shitonga.org. I shut it down last year due to time constraints. But yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, that's basically what keeps me busy on the side. I love it like life itself. Very passionate when I'm working on that side of things. It's almost like all of my other senses shut down and my mind is
And then
just
we
glued
refocus.
on, trying to build. Yeah, that's how
Um,
I feel when
I,
I work on that.
I mean, you mentioned something very, very important there, right? Which I don't think many of our people maybe at our age, including myself, I got to understand it very late, right? Being around and sticking around on something for a very long time. I think you mentioned that you have been doing this for since 2013 and all those kind of things. For an average person, they would have given up already. They would have said, "Well, this is boring. It doesn't feel
Yeah,
like we are gonna expand more and all those kind of things." Could you please maybe explain the importance of being an expert on something rather than being an expert in everything, and related back to the Angular. You see, I got it right now. The Angular sense, and then maybe highlight it, please, on that end. I feel like this learning is not only just going to end on the Angular space, but rather on
yeah.
any other thing there. So could you please explain the importance of that, sticking around, being a master of something other than just trying to be the master of everything?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's quite some controversial grounds you're putting me on there. Because I know, I mean, even within the tech space itself, that
Mhm,
conversation occurs a lot, in particular with regards to being full stack or specializing as a front end or a back end person.
mhm,
Um, I think for startups anyway, it takes a long time typically to build it. So when you do start a project, you should anticipate that you would need to pour in at least 4 or 5 years of your life into it for you to see something meaningful and something that other people actually respect.
mhm,
If you are lucky, you can do it in a shorter time frame. But also, I think what kept me going is that you don't have to be consistent every day to do this. And there are days when you're not motivated, you just don't feel like doing anything. And that's okay. You just don't do anything. You won't feel, hopefully, you don't feel the same 2 weeks after or the next day or and then you pick up again and just continue working on it. If you do discover that maybe it's not a project you love, I don't think it makes sense to persist. even if you can see that you would rather work on something else. But I'll
Mhm.
just to shorten it. I think when you start a project, a startup or product, an app that you would like people to use, I've hardly seen a situation where anybody here in South Africa starts something and then the next year it starts booming and it's something people use. It takes a bit of time. So you just want to invest a little. You won't be motivated every day to work.
Mhm.
You won't have the support structures that you have.
Mhm.
They won't be there for each day, but they will be there even though it's not consistent, but it will stretch out for the period you're working on it. And I think that's all that counts. There are times when I actually don't do any work on any of these apps. So weeks, months, sometimes I don't touch it. I just leave it on the app stores. When people are complaining, the app store reviews, I'm just looking at them. It's like, yeah, I'll work on it
You
when
grab
my
them,
energy is
yeah,
back up again.
yeah. But but I
Yeah.
think you also mentioned the fact that there would be times when you don't really feel like working and putting in the thing the time and the energy and all those kind of things. And for me, I think it's totally fine. Again, like you said, and the reason being it's not every day where you be in a good mood. The very same way, it's not every day where you feel like you're working, you want to go to work. Of course, in many cases, you don't want to work
Yeah.
almost any day. But when you do want to work, put in your all and put in your all forward.
Yeah. Yeah,
So I mean, I
maybe if I
pick.
can just add something.
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I think another thing that used to help me is I like working on, yeah, like I like solving problems, especially problems that are experienced by people that I interact with on a day-to-day
Mhm,
basis. So one
mhm,
thing that would help is I would have so many stuff I'm working on, as far as the public is concerned, but in
mhm,
reality, I'm working only on one of those things at a time. So when my motivation dies off in one project, it usually does pick up in another project. So you'd
somewhere else.
find that maybe on the language side, I'm just not feeling it anymore. I would move into, I had a transport Uber-like app at some point.
Mhm.
So I would move my energy into that and things would just pick up there. But for some reason, for this particular
The other one.
project, I'm just not feeling it. Yeah. So yeah, I think it does help also to have multiple interests so that when you lose interest in one space, you can invest it in somewhere else. It doesn't have to be another app. It could be a sport or like some other thing that can occupy your mind.
Yeah, I mean I know I just get out of Angola and Mahlahle pretty quick, right? But for me, I think I'm more focusing on the experiences and the lessons you are learning as you're building this whole thing. Because I mean, the way I understand
Yeah, yeah,
the two apps you are building, it's we're trying to make sure that I can easily greet a Zulu speaking person or an African speaking person as easy as ABC. I mean, one other biggest benefit
yes,
for me that I think comes whenever for a person to be able to speak any other language, it's if I come and greet you in Xitsonga and I say Abusheni, then by default you start giggling inside. You start becoming happy and you're super happy at
yeah,
helping me. And it means that if you had a colleague who speaks Tsonga or Chivenda or Xhosa or any other language, you having a little bit of that would actually even strengthen the way you work and the productivity level and the things you
yeah,
guys are going to do together. It's going to go far much beyond. I'm just explaining to
yeah,
those ones
yeah,
who'll be like, well, why do I need to learn any other language? It's quite important, by the way. Um, I, I mean, I'm in a mission right now to learn proper Zulu, like know it like proper and speak it properly. I can speak Tonga beat a little bit. I can speak Sepedi a little bit, but I need to
yeah.
jump onto Zulu because it's such interesting. And I have a lot of my Zulu speaking
Yeah,
friends around here, and sometimes they will crack a joke, and I'm like, what are we saying? So, but yeah, I mean, fast forward to everything, right?
yeah. If I can just
Um,
jump in a bit there, sorry.
yes, please.
Yeah,
You can
yeah.
go
So no,
ahead.
I was just gonna say, I mean, it's so important what you mentioned. So the reason we're doing this, I think I explained what the app is about and just the overall mission. But the reason we're doing this is it's just a core belief in me that language plays a huge role in social cohesion, um, in such a massive way,
Mhm,
particularly in here in Africa.
mhm,
And this plays out at so many levels. We experience it every day. You see
mhm,
it when somebody's falling in love. One of the first things they try to do is to learn a few phrases here and there to try and
mhm,
impress the other person because we know just how strong of a cohesion you can
mhm,
build by affirming the person that you're speaking with, and
mhm,
obviously affirming the person includes their culture. And I mean,
mhm,
there's a saying that language is the wings with which culture flies. So
mhm,
language is it's a very powerful tool for social cohesion, and that's what we aiming for really is to
mhm,
bring about social cohesion using language amongst
mhm,
Africans living in the SADC region. It's what we're going for now, and also for people that are coming to do business in the continent to empower them to use language as a tool to enhance that social cohesion that they need to
Yep.
build for their businesses and their relationships with local communities to thrive. So yeah, no, I just wanted to add that.
No, it's I think mostly when I try to explain people this concept and the importance of this concept, they just be like, "You're getting too geeky." I'm like, "No, I'm not." If I think was it Warren Buffett, I'll double check that, right? They one of these big billionaires, they
Yeah.
explained the I think three or four most important skills that each and every person has to have. And that included being able to read,
Mm,
being able to write, being able to communicate, and be able to do
mm,
arithmetics, which means being able to count. We're not saying solving a
mm.
logarithmic. No, 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 no. We're saying being able to count. Simple 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9,
Yeah,
10. That's it. You got what I'm saying?
yeah,
And if being
yeah,
able to communicate and read and then write are the three main things that these guys are talking about, that is whole Mahlahle and the Angula app. So it's quite important, and people just think we only need skills to survive. No, no, no. Skill, it's good to get you there, but then these four basic
yeah,
things, it's good to get you up there. And I mean, I'll try to
yeah,
find somebody, of course, who works with more people, and then they will explain this concept to us. But it's very, 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 very,
yeah,
very
yeah.
important. Yeah.
Yeah, no, no,
Um.
that's such a powerful I think pair of four. I don't think I had heard of that before, but now just thinking of it, it's a very powerful set. I think I mean you can even spot these patterns by just observing people, and I think one of the things I used to joke about with
Mhm,
language apps, there's a guy I chat to normally to share business problems that I have, and it's
mhm,
a very bright guy on the business side, and he used to say, "How are you getting people to download the app without marketing?" Because I kept on saying, would present a budget to him, but there's no marketing field. And
mhm.
it's like you don't get it. Language is something like just observe people. This is something
Yep.
people want to do. It's not something you have to convince them to do. It's just
Yep.
what they want to do and are doing in other ways. So you're just providing a service uh to make that process a little bit
Much easier.
easier. So yeah, no, that's a very powerful set of four. I think I'll look deep into that. It's interesting.
Y- No, it is. I always say for any kid that is in this world, make sure that they're very good at those four things. Even though they are not so
Yeah.
good in maths or they are not so good in physics or any other subjects or dancing or whatever, if they are good with those four basic things in life, they can make anything out of themselves. I think, and unfortunately, mostly our education system teaches us to just only go to university and not try to make other things should other
Yeah.
things not work. You got what I'm saying? It's good. Yes,
Yeah.
I encourage everybody to go to university, do all these great things and all those kind of things. But even if you're going to university, it's useless if you don't have these four basic things as part of you, because you're just going to
Yeah.
be there, but not really applicable. You can't really apply yourself beyond just what you were taught. But that's a very big topic that I'm definitely going to take a look at some of the chats. So I think let's go to the closing of this thing, right? I'm not sure if there were other topics you wanted us to have a chat about, but there are two, three questions that it's this or that, and then you have to give me a reason why. So yeah, and I'm not sure if you have any
Okay.
other maybe advice. I think let's start with an advice or anything you would like to tell any young kid who's dreaming to be maybe a software engineer or be an entrepreneur or be something, anything in life. For me, I feel like even if you just want to be a happy person, that is still a very good career goal.
Yeah.
You just obviously need to find a way that you eat by being happy, but be a happy person and be a good person in general. It's still one of a good career option. But yeah, what advice would you give to
Yeah.
those before I come to my three questions here?
Yeah. You're making me feel very important here, having to give advice. But no, I think I would say go with your gut. Go with stuff that really interests you. I think you do your best work when you're working on stuff that you truly find interesting. You don't always get that at the workplace, but at least for projects that you do on the side or
Yeah.
for companies you start, you get to pick which sort of problems to work on. And then the second one would be try, don't let other people invalidate what your view is. I'm not saying don't listen to other people, but um, I mean, I have a view on a lot of things, and it's these views that enable me to build. So I have a view on what color an app for kids should be. I'm not a bystander when it comes to that. I have a view. It might be the incorrect view according to whatever standard, but I have a view. And the one thing that I do not allow to happen, which I think I see happening a lot, especially when things are shared on Twitter and comments starts flying by,
Yeah.
is other people think that their view is more important than yours. My view is quite important in my life. It's more important in my life than yours, than anybody else's view, for that matter, including on the things that I build. And I know it
Yeah.
makes a lot of people uncomfortable when I say that,
Mhm.
but I'm ready to debate somebody on any aspect of the app
Yeah.
because I have a view. I'm not a bystander. When
Yeah.
it comes to which languages to include, I have a view. It
Yeah.
might be an incorrect view according to whatever standard, but I'm not a bystander. So what I would say is have a view, you know. One, affirm that your views are important in what you're building. What do you think the app size should be? It matters. What do you think the colors should be matters. You won't always have the correct quote unquote view, but have a view and know that it's important and don't allow anybody to put it down. I think, yeah, um,
I
with the
want you to
level
plug
of
into.
importance you've risen me to, that's
No,
the
go for it. Sorry, the thing is, I have so many things to say as you're saying that advice, but it's your chance. Please just finish that statement, and then I'll add my
No, no,
my
no.
my my.
That
No,
was actually the end of it. Yeah,
it's okay. No, I really love what you said. Have a view and don't be afraid to stick by it. I remember, I think a week ago, I wrote a status on my WhatsApp. I was said, if people are telling you the things that you don't want to hear, learn to not listen. And that's just the truth. Of course, I mean, they will tell you
yeah,
that's you being stubborn and all those kind of things. But for me, more especially if you're a dreamer
Yeah,
and if you want to do something that was never thought possible before, I mean, people will always tell you this is not going to happen. How do you think you're going to do it?
yeah,
That sounds crazy. You're just going to sell an app that teaches people to talk Chivenda. That sounds crazy. It sounds absurd to people, to a
yeah, yeah,
normal person. And one thing I got to realize is those people will say that 5 months or 6 months before, and then 8 months later or 6 months later, they'll be like, "Can we work with you on this?" But then I thought you said this will never work. You got what I'm saying? So in many cases, people who tell you their view and tell you how you should live their life is mostly people who either are not even working at all or who envy what you're doing and they are not even starting and they're not doing. So
yeah,
at least if you have a view, you are better than somebody who doesn't have a view at all. And if you have chosen a color, you are better than
yeah,
somebody who didn't even choose a color at all. So I resonate
yeah,
100%. I mean, more especially in the entrepreneur space. This is more especially if you're starting out. I mean, for now, yes, I've started like two companies since then, and that I got to learn. No, man, if people will always talk, man. Over time, they will fall in line. Bazo among a line and stuff like
yeah.
that.
That's very powerful. I think it's quite important that we get to hear what everybody thinks. Obviously, you won't always be right. I think you want to be
Mhm.
maybe a little above 70% right with the product, and
Yes.
the 30% you could be wrong and still survive.
Mhm.
So there will be other exchanges that you have with people where you are wrong on issues. It's not to say you shouldn't listen to
Yep.
them at all,
Mhm.
but you're not a bystander.
Yep.
It's I think the thing that I would want to implant in people, that don't be a bystander. I, I have a view. I'm not. Don't be an empty tin that's waiting for other people to fill with their
To
thoughts.
fail. Thank
Have a
you.
view, and then if
Have your own
you
grounds.
need to refine the
Yep.
view, you will refine it. Yeah, but have
Yep.
your own ground. Yeah,
Yeah, no, that's I took the advice myself again because from time to time, yes. I mean, even when we started this communicator chats, to people it sounds crazy, but I was like, well, by the way, I only got to learn what I'm doing today by listening to other people who have lived this life. And of course, over time, I get to
yeah,
pop
yeah,
it in my own way. But at least there is guys who would tell you that they were studying at university. Who am I thinking that I will make it if I'm not studying? You get what I'm saying? So if I'm still, at least the people that I'm
yeah,
listening to, mostly it's people who are making things happen. They do it this way and all those kind of things. Then that's it.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, enough of the spotlight and your advices. You see, you're very important. I took it for a whole good 5 minutes. But now it's time to play a game, right? I call it this or that. I don't know if I should be
Okay,
calling it this or that, but yeah, this or that, right?
okay,
Um, in terms of frameworks, right? React or Angular
yeah.
in software engineering. Just
React.
give some context just for people who don't really know what that is. But yeah.
I mean, I think React. I like that it's not too opinionated, so it's
Mhm.
quite flexible. There are implementations of it that are opinionated, but for the most part, you can go in any direction with it. I also like that the web version of React, which is just React, is a little
Mhm.
bit close to React Native. So if you have those skills, you can easily build an app.
Okay, so you went for reusability. Okay, I see. Um,
Yes.
so okay. I'm a bit on the Angular side. If I'm building any complex website, I always go for Angular.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I was just gonna add the guy I'm working with
Mhm.
on Angola is a Angular guy actually.
Mhm.
So he has a platform, his own uh, web app that's written in
Mhm.
Angular, and yeah, it's quite don't want to call him a fanatic, but yeah, he's a fan. Let me
I
put it like
am.
that.
I am a fan. Hey, hey, hey! It could be if it could be a big one there. We're saying Angular or React. So I guess that's just that. No, it's a pretty cool technology, but I'll explain some other day why Angular. But for me in general, I did write React. I love the benefit of you being able to just switch from React to React Native. The syntax is like quick, simple, and all those kind of things. The only thing I hate about React is you there's this thing, the way in the components are kind of looping themselves, and there's this whole thing of re-rendering
Yes,
of a React component. Yeah,
yeah,
you
yes,
can get
yes.
in trouble somewhere somehow, more especially if we are working with Firebase. I don't want to get into too much of the details on the technicals there, but yeah, that's React. Cool. And then now C# or Java.
Java. I don't think I know what C sharp looks like. Do I? I don't think so. Maybe I do. So my
Okay.
entire this might be uh decisions that were made for me by the school I went to, because they didn't teach C sharp, at least in our course. So
Mhm.
we did C and then C plus plus and then Java, and then it was Java all the way after that. So even career wise, all of the jobs I've had except for one had the word Java in it. Like the description of the role would always have Java
Java,
in
Java,
it.
Java.
Yeah.
Did you write the back end of
Yes.
Mahlahle in Java? Or, I mean, or was it just like simple Node?
No, actually, so for my personal projects, I use the same stack, which I
Mhm.
think angers a lot of people. So I use
Okay.
React
Mhm.
on the website, or
Mhm.
Node.js sometimes, and then I would use Node.js on the backend
Okay.
with Google Cloud Services or with Firebase
At least we
directly.
agree. At least we are agreeing. You see, this is the first time we're
Yeah.
agreeing about the tech stack. I love that. Okay. Yeah, no, I think Google Cloud is quite
Yeah.
easy to work with. Most especially on the Firebase side.
Yeah.
I really like it. I've been using it for years now. So yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is the last one. This is I'm not sure if it's a hot topic, it's a controversial topic, whatever they call it, right? These days, companies are thinking of bringing everybody to work and work at the office, right? Or at least they want to
Yeah.
do hybrid. I don't want to ask
Yeah.
you how you feel about it, but I want you to choose. Would you prefer fully remote, a hybrid, or fully office? I know that's an option. And then explain to me the reasons why. I think you also include that point of you saying it does feel lonely at home at times and all those kind of things. Please go for
Yeah.
it.
I would think hybrid. Um, I think on the for going to the office side is the point you just highlighted now, that
Mhm.
it does feel a little bit lonely at times. There are also issues that are better to discuss, I feel, in a room where you have a board and actually draw diagrams and
Mhm.
so forth. I think it also has benefits on like team building aspect of it. You get to interact with actual people.
Mhm.
It's hard to share personal stories via these online virtual platforms, but when you're together in a room or in an office, those tend to slip out here and there, and I think they help in building stronger bonds in a team. And then lastly, on for going to the office, I think for when you're starting out in a team, it's quite hard to follow and catch up virtually. It's quite tough, I think, on juniors as well, who need a lot of attention. The way to get attention in the virtual uh, world is I don't think it's friendly to somebody who's a beginner.
Yeah.
Yeah, so those are the reasons for going to the office. And then the opposite, I mean, staying at home is just um it's it can get hard to zone in the office because of maybe to put it in a more honest but rude way, it's easy to ignore people when which you need to do sometimes when you are,
Yes.
zoning
Mhm.
in and just trying to pay as much attention as you need to actually solve an issue,
Yes.
especially for people that are like intermediate to senior, where you have a lot of
Mhm.
inquiries coming your direction. You, you can spend the entire day, just dealing with people's issues. I think also helps on the personal side of things in that you can get to do your school runs comfortably, and also when there are issues that you need to address that would require either long conversations with your boss to actually get even 30 minutes out at yeah, like at an office. Just easier to handle when doing it remotely. Um, yeah,
So
I would
so
think
you're saying
yeah,
you'd be open to like a hybrid way and we have like 3, 4 days in a month
yeah.
meeting with the team, like just to keep that fire burning from time to time.
I mean, I would even push it to 2 days in a week at the
Okay.
office.
No,
Yeah, like I would push it that
100%.
far. Uh, I
100%.
think, yeah, I think maybe because I've been doing it this way, like fully remote for since before COVID. So I
Yeah.
think it's starting to to
Yeah,
get
it
to
gets
me
in your
now.
nerve over time. Over time, it gets in your nerve. I'm gonna tell you the truth. It
Yeah,
does get, and you just feel like this guy was put into the box, and you're just busy delivering stuff. And I think more, it feels like that
yeah,
mostly for a senior because in many cases you can live on your own, and you have probably the guy
yes,
that creates the work in the first place. Like you have little to no dependency on other people, so you won't have to spend 4 hours or 3 hours in a call
yeah,
with somebody else. So yeah, you're just there on your own. Otherwise, I think
yeah,
we had a great chat. Yeah, it's quite
yeah.
interesting views. Yeah, and I think I should just take this moment and really thank you for this. I'm hoping to have a few more other chats around, other crazy topics in software engineering, in tech in general. And yeah, I mean, thank you very much for taking your time. This is a lot of time, 1 hour, 44 minutes right now. And yeah, I really appreciate it and I appreciate it so, so much.
No, thank you so much, man. I've really enjoyed this. I think you made me really go back and think and try to remember how things were back in the day. Also, I think more recent stuff that I'm working on. So, no, I really enjoyed this. So, thank you.